You are listening to the 312 Squadron podcast, off-topic edition. This is a new format we are piloting here, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Andrew Kouba. Welcome,
Hello.
Andrew. So Andrew and I had this idea. It was really, I guess I kind of forced this idea upon Andrew, but he, was on board with it, of basically every once in a while recording an episode of the 312 Squadron podcast that isn't just about X-Wing. There's a lot for us to talk about. We always have things to talk about. And, we want to be able to have kind of an off-speed type opportunity for people who enjoy kind of the non-X-Wing related stuff that we represent, that we'd like to talk about across all of our episodes. And yeah, this is going to be fun. So I wouldn't expect these to be frequent or all the time, but I think every few standard X-Wing related podcast episodes, we'll do an off topic. So this is going to be episode 1 of our off topic. Andrew, what do you think? You excited to talk about a bunch of stuff? There's a lot of things to talk about.
Yeah, right. I mean, you're going to get kind of a preview of what Nick and I talk about whenever we get together outside of this. And no, it's always fun. As much as we love X-Wing, this is kind of a nice like palate cleanser for us too.
So I do want to preface to everybody as a disclaimer that the things that we are talking about may be uncomfortable, may not be aligned with your beliefs, and are most likely going to be involving politics. I understand that nowadays things are so polarizing and there's a lot of issues, a lot of suffering, and a lot of division. And our goal is to not split people apart. But of course, at the same time, I recommend you don't listen to this if you don't want to hear it, and you don't have to hear it. So just kind of want to give you that disclaimer. Obviously, our channel, 312 Squadron, is really a product of our values and who we are as people. X-Wing is not just fundamentally only plastic spaceships and nothing else. But of course, that's why we're doing this separately, because we understand that not everyone wants to tune into an X-Wing stream or listen to an X-Wing related podcast and only hear things that are politically related or otherwise, right? So just want to give you all a heads up that if you don't want to hear it, you don't have to. And you can still complain about it anyways. I always enjoy reading the complaints.
Yeah, heck yeah.
So yeah. Cheers.
As we get into political stuff, like I was born and raised in Chicago. Nick grew up in California and moved to Chicago. So, I mean, you can probably just even guess based on that, like where our political leanings are.
I'm not from rural Mississippi, but I really do value. What I really value is no matter where you're from, that you are open-minded and willing to listen, and also willing to change your mind. I think it's important nowadays that it's okay to admit that you got it wrong, or it's okay to at least be willing to be wrong, right? That I think that's the difference these days, is that people have decided that they're going to be right about everything. And you can see it in discourse, especially in social media, the way people they talk at each other. They're not really talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just gotten to the point now where it's really disorienting, and it's disheartening at the same time.
Yeah,
I'm trying to be more. It's gotten so bad, Andrew, that I've gone from being kind of a pessimist to more of an optimist. It's gotten that bad that I feel like I've been pushed in this new direction where I'm like, like the midterms are coming, and like we will learn from this and we'll be better. But obviously, history has shown that sometimes we're incapable of learning from everything. So
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
But I mean, my thoughts and feelings are I think most people in the country know what's wrong. Unfortunately, it's just the people who are in positions of power either are unaware or they refuse to do anything different.
Yeah, it's, let's get into it, right? So the big elephant in the room, as I said before we started, the big mutated elephant in the room is that,
Mhm.
the United States is now at war with Iran.
Holy cow, right? Like,
And Venezuela first, and now this. I think there's a lot of serious whiplash for the world, but especially people in this country,
yeah.
really having to come to terms with the fact that we're kind of just we're not really, nothing really makes sense anymore. In when it comes to a platform that promises about making America great, are putting America first. I feel like no matter what, we've only seen foreign interest in billionaires be put first, and this is not just privy to one side of the aisle. I just think Republicans are a lot more brazen, or really a lot more obvious about it these days. And I think Democrats try to slink behind kind of a veil when it comes to private and corporate interests. But man, I have
Oh,
to
for
say,
sure.
Venezuela with the oil, all for the oil tech, the big billionaires. And then now with Iran, and the gas prices are going up here. And obviously, I don't care about gas prices as much as I care about people getting killed. I
Mhm.
mean, I think it's really sick that a lot of people have drawn the line at gas prices to actually maybe stop supporting Trump. And it's just, I can't really wrap my head around that. Andrew, what are your thoughts? I just said a
No.
lot of stuff. It's a lot.
No,
Like,
1,000%. I don't know. I'm not gonna say that, that, Maduro or even that, Khamenei, these are, like, good administrations, these are good, people or, they're dictators. I don't think you wanna live in a world where just the leader of a country can just be assassinated or just be kidnapped at will, because you're setting a precedent that, whoever is the strongest then gets to just dictate, like, world policy. Not only that, the backlash that this is going to create, not only internally from like most Americans don't want this war, no one in the globe wants it. The scariest thing is that before, under like the Bush administration, when they wanted to attack Iraq, they had to like really try to fake a story about weapons of mass destruction. They
like
had to
convince
like
us, right?
yeah, they actually had to, like, make a case. There was, like, some like, they had to deceive the American people. Now, they like, the pretext is just gone. It's just, whatever, we're just doing it, and you gotta live with it.
I don't want to, it's a sick thing to say, but I don't, I have to give credit, the only credit I can possibly ever give to this administration, in the sense that they, they've just full sent everything. And, they haven't been concerned with, polling, which obviously hates it, and they haven't been concerned with the law, which obviously I don't respect that. But there is something to be said about them saying we're going to do all these crazy things, and then them actually doing almost all of it,
Yeah.
and then a lot more. Right? I don't think we're used to that. I think we're used to politicians saying I'm going to do this and this and this for you, and then they try to pass a bill, the bill doesn't pass,
Yeah.
and then everyone they forget about it, and they hope we forget about it too. I
Oh,
feel like every day there's something crazy that they're doing, and they don't seem to care about the about Congress.
I
They
mean
don't care
I
about
mean, right.
the
Most of
courts.
it's illegal, right? Like,
Most of it,
this is against the Constitution. The, war in Iran is acting without congressional approval, like, that is against the Constitution. They've
yep.
already, launched there's tons of laws that are against this administration, and, yeah, I mean, this is, like, a real stress test of our Constitution.
And so you say, like, right, it was without congressional approval, but then I almost feel like Congress did end up approving it in retrospect, because then the war powers resolution failed miserably, and to hone in and rein him back from doing this. And so it's like they complained about them not being involved, and then they basically put it to vote and said we'll just let you keep doing this anyways. And I think that's pretty discouraging for
Mhm.
sure, because I can't believe that this can't even be bipartisan. This is anti-war, especially a president who said we're going to end all wars. The whole phony bullshit about being a peace president, all that stuff
Yeah.
that he keeps pumping out every day and claiming that he is, as he starts to multiple wars, kidnaps leaders, all this stuff. And yeah, they have an opportunity to be like, you know what, like this is too much, because it is, and then they vote it down. So that's the stuff that I think is really going to motivate people in the midterms. There have been some people who have been primaried now, and then those who are up for election or reelection. I think there's going to be probably one of the most fascinating elections we've had in quite a while,
Oh, 100%.
happening in November. A referendum, really, against the complacency and the enabling that honestly both parties have contributed to. But
Oh,
this is
big time.
largely a Republican problem right now.
Well, they're the party
They're in
that's in the
power.
most power. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
So yeah, and I don't know about you, Andrew, but like I have half my family's conservative, and I try to remind people of this, because like it's not like me trying to say like, oh, like I have a black friend, I can't be racist kind of thing. It's me saying like I have my family's conservative, but
Yeah.
I've grown up spending a lot of time around people who I love who do see a lot of things differently from me, but they are reasonable. And it's like it's trying to find the reason. So I compartmentalize. We're conservatives and Republicans these days because anyone who says they're a proud Republican, I really want to stay as far away from as possible. I think they're very problematic. And then there are people who have conservative beliefs. I do think there is absolutely a place for that. And honestly, they're not being really represented anymore. That party's been hijacked in a pretty crazy way. I don't know if you conflate the two or if you see them as the same still. I think there was a time where if you were conservative, you were Republican, it didn't really, it didn't matter semantics. But now
Yeah.
I feel like I have to draw a line between the two because there's a lot of people who are conservative who, you know, unfortunately, they don't agree with any of this stuff. But then when it comes to vote, I don't think they're voting the way that they probably should. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or at least, vote for somebody else. It could be third party or don't vote at all. That's a vote as well. I don't know.
No, I mean that's fair. I mean I'll say I also have family that is all over the political spectrum. I would say that the way that the window has shifted, I think we're seeing a break in the not even in the Republican Party, but the Republican Party has shifted significantly further right. The MAGA movement is unique in its own way. I think it's still a minority of the Republican Party, but the Republican Party itself has just shifted a lot further to the right. I think what would be considered like conservative under in like the 90s and when like under like George Bush and Bill Clinton, I think a lot of those voters are now basically like that's just the Democratic Party. Is the Democratic Party kind of has those beliefs where they are, socially liberal, fiscally conservative. Although we're starting to see that change too, where you'll have candidates like Gavin Newsom um, start being anti-trans. Kamala Harris ran under an anti-immigration campaign, so we are kind of seeing the Democratic Party become the Republican Party of yesteryear. As for me, like my own politics, I'm probably like the most I have a couple family members, I guess, who are as left wing. In my immediate family, I'm probably the most left wing of my family.
How would you describe your political leaning? You say you're progressive, democratic socialist, communist?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would be like a progressive, democratic socialist. I'm in the Zoran Mamdani camp.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure. I'm definitely in more of a Mamdani state of mind and have had those beliefs for quite some time. I I I I do think about again, I know that he's very establishment, but the kind of turnout and the excitement and really the prospects tied to 2008 when Obama won because I think he wasn't really being groomed as the candidate for the Democratic Party. It was Hillary and then
yeah.
he just turned everybody out and she lost and he became the candidate and I feel like it's been that long since people have felt, not saying that it is, but have felt like the candidate that they're voting for means something to them. Like is like truly excites them. I know that
Oh,
Trump
for
to some
sure.
people is like the messiah, but I think to most people who voted for him, they kind of did it, pinching their nose and kind of looking up because they thought, well, I don't, things are expensive and things are hard.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, I agree with you on that sentiment. I think a lot of people now thought that Trump would be better because, yeah, it was at least a little bit better in 2016, and then the Democrats running on the we're going to keep everything as it is right now ticket is awful. Yeah.
So let's talk about Mom Donnie a little bit. Um, he's obviously shown very early on that if you use the people you're investing in and invest in them, then they will invest in their own people and themselves, right? It's kind of this like there's this kind of ecosystem that you can create, like with the ice plow or the snow plowing program that he did recently, the
Yeah.
shoveling rather. He created a lot of jobs to help people, you know, make money to clear the streets for people in their communities. And so it's like investing in social welfare and therefore people's tax dollars they see in front of them. My tax dollars are going to people who have jobs clearing the snow to help me and it helps them as well. And so that that kind of stuff is like so it reminds me of like old school like FDR type programs, like social programs, because that was his whole thing was like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to create all of these new programs, create all these jobs that will benefit different parts of society and invest in the American people by paying the American people to help the American people. And now we've gotten so much more individualistic. I was watching. Have you seen Subway Takes? Do you know that like it's
Yes.
social media? Right,
Yeah, yeah,
really,
yeah.
really good.
No, I
But
love
there was
those.
one guy on there who was like, I feel like now we're at the point where it's like, what can I get away with in
Yeah.
terms of like capitalism? It's like when you charge $28 for a beer at a sporting event or something, like it's just what can I get away with instead of like, is this right? Is this exploiting people? Is this taking advantage of people? Can people actually afford this? Should I feel bad that they can't?
No,
Credit
100%.
cards are a beautiful thing for that. It's kind of a mirage. Kind of, people don't think about the affordability thing when everyone's running things on their credit card.
Right.
As I'm getting ready to move, I've living here for so long, I've really just so much stuff. I'm like, oh my god, I'm like such a materialist. But obviously, when you stay in one place for so long, and we're collectors too,
I know.
obviously,
Oh,
there's a little bit of that
I
too.
have a hoarder
But
gene in me. Yeah.
but it's just it becomes apparent that it's just like for me, I feel like sometimes I have good impulse control and sometimes I don't, and it depends. It's like I think we're being conditioned in a lot of ways to just be so okay with the idea of having to buy a new monitor every 2 or 3 years, buy a new graphics card every two years. To something as simple as like, gosh, buying a new shoes before the shoes you're currently wearing have actually like worn off or gone
Yeah.
bad or gotten destroyed. Yeah, it's just it's never enough, and that's the system that we work with. Is that whereas other countries, it's very much about like rallying around what you have. And here it's about rallying around what you don't have and trying to always like reach the unreachable and like get to that point. It's like about status and symbolism and like, oh well, if I spend $600 on these glasses, which I'm guilty of liking the designer frames, but they are super expensive, and it's like nobody will notice that I'm wearing those. They just like fucking glasses, like everyone else's glasses, right? And it's just like, who is this for? What are you doing this for? You're ultimately just doing it for, you know, the system rather than yourself. It doesn't actually make you healthier. It doesn't make you ultimately long term feel better. It perpetuates bad behaviors and bad habits, and that's really just kind of the society we're at.
Sure.
It's a commentary on capitalism, but I think it's a commentary on the way the world has shifted so drastically, and being less caring about people and being less about humanity and more
Oh, big
about
time. Yeah.
really just about profits and the ever so existential dread, the system of the dread around people relying on an ever decreasing workforce
Yeah.
to live, right? It's like a system that's like, hey, for us to make the most money, we need to displace all the people who give us money.
We are watching an American economy start develop in a way that it is excluding people, and you need people for an economy to work. So this is the first time that we're exploring, like, can you have an economy without a workforce? And that is going to be scary.
Yeah, I think the answer is going to be no. I mean,
I think so too.
I think it's a pretty. I mean, that's what's alarming a lot of economists and obviously the everyday people is like, hey, your plans for your company are to raise prices. When you are losing money, you raise prices,
Hmm.
and then you plan layoffs to increase your margins every year. The biggest companies like Amazon, it's a part of their Meta. They plan layoffs, which is crazy. You should only ever lay people off when you have to, not when you just like you feel like it, you want to. And that's a whole other thing. And so it leaves more and more people undercutting each other and competing for jobs, and companies have all the leverage in that situation. And then it's just a really bad position. The employee, the consumer marketplace has probably the lowest leverage it's ever had,
Oh yeah.
or some of the lowest leverage it's ever had. sometimes it gets to me for sure. Like it's times like this. I'm glad I have a therapist to talk through some of this stuff, because it's just like, man, you don't want to. I have my own. We have our own lives, and we have things that make us happy. We have our own. We have a roof over our heads. There's a lot to be thankful for, obviously, but at the same time, it's hard not to worry and to care about this. To get a little deep, like I've traditionally always kind of been someone who's wanted to have a family at some point in my life, and honestly, I am so I'm like I'm putting that on hold because I need to see some results. I need to see things get better in some way before I can, in good conscience, like myself, and I'm just
Yeah.
speaking for myself, feel happy and confident with the idea of like bringing someone into into the world right now, or anytime in the future. And I know that's like very deep and existential, but yeah, I think it's owed to us. And I think, ultimately we outnumber the people in power. And when it comes to our voices being heard, I'm hopeful that that there's some disruption here and that things sway back.
I think so. And I think that that is, like we're already starting to see that, you see one of the first, like in Texas, one of the first like progressive Democrats that have been elected, in the state in years. You already have like progressive candidates that have,
You're talking about Talrico.
oh yeah, that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Uh,
super excited about him.
yeah,
So we can talk about
absolutely.
Texas in a second, because I was going to bring that up, but keep going.
Yeah, but I mean, and we already kind of seen this backlash occur, and I think that yeah, in like we might see that swing in the midterms. It's going to be interesting to see how conservatives and even like establishment like Democrats respond to all of this. But I think
Yeah.
that there's a lot to be hopeful for.
I sometimes think about it. It's like, man, if your strategy was to stay in power, this would not be it. I mean, it's like a bet to see who can tank their party the most, and it's the Republicans have a very clear lead right now,
Hmm.
in terms of the decisions that they've made on behalf of the country. Um, it's just like, where do people begin about things they disagree with? Is it the way that ICE has been handled, and that the catastrophe there?
Oh,
Is
for
it
sure.
been Venezuela? Has it been Iran? Has it been the economy, the tariffs? I mean, the election fraud, attempts, or attempts to control elections,
All the
the
Epstein
disregard for
files.
the
Yeah.
courts, the fact that he's most likely, I mean, I call him a pedophile.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty safe to assume that he is at least really good friends with a lot of them, and
But
therefore
here's
he's
the
implicit in it.
Even if
Like,
he's not, he knows a lot of them, and he's
yeah, and it's
okay
so
with them and
problematic.
still
And I
friends with
was
them.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, you have pedophiles telling everybody that it's not okay to be a pedophile, and it's so fascinating to me. We've gotten to this point now with Epstein, that we have a just massive dump of the most horrifying stuff that you can imagine, and then you have nothing happening after that in the States. At least in other countries, there's a lot of attempts to have some justice.
Yeah, embarrassing, right? Yeah.
Not only is it embarrassing, but it's pretty clear that there's some serious corruption and cover up happening,
Oh,
and
big
that's not
time.
a partisan stance. That is
No.
literally what everybody believes, and every common person sees in front of them, because it's like, where's the justice here? Even Bill
Yeah.
Clinton, he testifies, Hillary testifies, and Trump's like, I feel bad for Bill. Like, he's over here like protecting a Clinton, and it's like, wow, the corruption runs so deep that he's over here saying that he feels bad for him and that he doesn't like the way that he's being
Right,
treated.
yeah. Well, I mean, because he knows that if people treat Bill that way, they have to treat him that way too. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we also just, we have somebody who is so willing to retaliate when his feelings are hurt, in charge of launching nuclear missiles, and it's just like, okay, something's got to give here. And November can't come soon enough, but let's say, as is what's I'm expecting, there's a really big push and wave for Democrats, and a lot of seats are flipped. The House, very likely. The Senate, up in the air, but I'm thinking likely, that they have a good shot there too. If he continues to try to do what he does, how is he held accountable? Even if the Democrats are, quote unquote, in power, the Supreme Court is really kind of a wild card / leaning Trump oftentimes.
Hmm.
and that, you defer to them, and then their rulings make no sense. They allow gerrymandering for like 3 or 4 states, and then they just stop one state from doing it.
Oh, for
And
sure. Yeah.
as it's just, I was shocked. I was pleasantly surprised that they allowed California to do their referendum, even though people voted on it. I wouldn't have been surprised if they wanted to hear the case and would have overturned it. But it's just power play after power play here. The gerrymandering sucks. Like,
Hmm.
I would feel really bad if I were just an everyday person, maybe moderate, maybe leaning, conservative, who just gets drawn out of a district just because their state's governor is like, we want more seats.
Yeah.
And Texas is such a big state that what they're trying to do is ridiculous, and it might not even work because the primary turnout, it was more democratic votes in the primary than Republican, which is really crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's crazy. So I think that's a big sign of, I think, at least, even if Talarico doesn't win, which I think he's got a good shot, but it's been a long time since they've done anything in Texas. I think it's a very clear indicator on where people are moving and feeling right now, and it gives me hope that they'll show up when it matters most in November, and that we can start to see some pushback. I don't know, Andrew. Right now, it's just, I feel like no matter what happens, it doesn't matter. Right? There's this feeling of like it just doesn't really matter, and it's I'm not used to. We're not used to that.
Yeah.
We're
I
not
mean,
used
well,
to complete disregard of like physics and common law and health and basic human dignity and sense and safety and everything like that.
Uh, I mean, fair enough. Honestly, I felt this in 2016. I mean, this isn't too far off from the first, like Trump administration. I think a lot that's being done here rhymes. I think, I mean, 2016 was a little bit better because they hadn't been deploying ICE as like a personal police force yet. But, they assassinated Soleimani and tried to start a war with, during his 2016 administration. Think that was like what, 2019
Yeah.
or 2020. We went through COVID, with Trump, and then also, just had Trump appoint his family to
Right.
prominent seats, and at that point was a complete breaking of norms. I think that was the first time it was stress tested. This time around, they kind of know what they can get away with, and they
I
didn't
will
have.
say,
And so I will say one thing that stopped Trump the first time around though is because he had the presidency, but he didn't control the House and the Senate. Even if the midterms do flip and the Republicans lose control of the House and the Senate, I think that will at least put a bit of a roadblock on what they can do. And there are things that the House and the Senate can do just to at least hamper, Trump a little bit. So I do think that there is a lot to be hopeful for moving forward, and I do think that this is something that like we as an American country can like weather.
yeah, I will say that, as bad of a look as we have right now, America and the people who like really make up really the backbone of this country are incredibly resilient people. And I think those are the same people who feel like their voices have been suppressed and haven't been heard for the longest, and they oftentimes are the ones whose votes matter the most, because when they do show up, things can swing really hard in either direction.
Oh, for sure.
And we're talking about a lot of people who they live in like lesser populated areas, or if they do live in a more densely populated area, they're you know they're the people who represent them are more corporate aligned. They don't really have opportunities to feel represented. And you know the Senate and the House, like the House of Representatives, I really feel like almost everybody in there, sans a few, all act on their own personal beliefs and not on the representation of the people who elected them. And this isn't anything new, but I think it's really, really, really clear that people are using their own beliefs and voting based on that, and not voting based on really what their constituents think. A lot of the times, we've seen footage of town halls where people are, either they're not showing up or they're not taking questions, or when they are taking questions, they're really hard hitting ones. And they basically tell them to their face, like, you're wrong. Um, I see like the GOP account that I don't even follow post on Facebook all the time. It's like Trump, the beast president, the president who will never start a war as he started to. And it's just everyone in the comments is like, is this satire? Like, what are you talking about? It's just, it's this whole idea that I believe what I believe. I'm not going to listen, and I'm going to weaponize that, and that's really what the government has been able to do. The House of Representatives has probably the loudest voices of dissent right now, like Thomas Massey. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene was really weird. I think that was kind of really bizarre kind of instance from her. Of Lauren Boebert, she seems pretty much like she's going to stay the same idiot that she's always been.
Yeah.
And whereas Marjorie Taylor Greene seemed to grow like 2 brain cells to be able to be like, I'm out, even though I don't really like her at all. I was surprised by that.
Yeah,
So
no. So I mean,
I'm sorry,
yeah, that
I'm
was
ranting.
no,
I
no,
am
no,
ranting
no,
right now.
no. I know.
But
I mean, that's interesting because yeah, that was so weird. But no, yeah, yeah, no, I agree that yeah, that we do have like those
yeah.
voices of dissent at
And
least,
then
and
the Senate, because of the filibuster, like you're never going to have like an actual majority to like pass like actual legislation in the Senate. Anything partisan will never get passed.
oh, for sure.
And I think if the Democrats best case scenario is they flip enough seats to get to like 51. There's still 9 short of the 60 needed to pass anything besides like budget reconciliation.
Yeah,
And so it's just a lot of, and honestly, Trump's got in and he's like, fuck this. This takes forever. You guys, Senate can't pass anything. So I'm going to break the law and I'm just going to do what I want. Everyone's just like, oh, wow, he can do that. I guess he can do that. And he just keeps doing it. I will disagree with you on one point, though. You said you saw a lot of this in 2016. It was very similar. I'd say you saw flashes of what was to come in 2016, but he was surrounded by a lot more people who had experience and who were willing to say no in a lot of cases, not every case. But now you have like the most weaponized incompetence across all major parts of his administration. I mean, everyone that he's put in a position of power in his cabinet is so unqualified and has no experience. You have Pete Hegseth, who came from Fox News, right? Kristi
yeah,
Noem, I mean, she has experience in government, but she's, one of the worst governors
yeah.
in the country.
Oh, for
Killed
sure.
a dog, which is a whole crazy thing that she was proud of, just like murdering animals. And yeah, it's just you have people that he's put in place now who are not willing to say no to him, and I think that's what's been the biggest difference is that they've kind of enabled him to do anything that he wants, and I think there was some guardrails put up around him, and he was trying to get to know the job the first time. So yes, there was definitely signs of what was to come his
Yeah,
first term, but I think it's way, 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 way worse now.
I mean, yeah, it's worse now for sure. Yeah. But, like, I mean, yeah, even in 2016, like, Betsy DeVos was the,
As soon
head
as
of
I
the
said
Department of Education.
yeah,
We have
unqualified, I thought of Betsy DeVos as soon as I said unqualified, but
we
yeah,
have Linda McMahon now. We had
the
our head of the
McMahon,
EPA was, oh my god, what's that guy? He was the
probably some
senator who
oil executive.
yeah, well, he was a senator who kept saying he was a geologist even though he's not a geologist. But anyway, yeah. No, it's yeah, it is still a deeply incompetent regime. Stephen Miller seems to be the shadow president, turning it up to 11. It was
Yeah,
back
yeah,
then. There
and
was a bit of a power struggle though last time between Stephen Miller and
Conway,
Conway. Yeah,
Kellyanne Conway.
yeah, between him and Kellyanne Conway at least the first time, and Steve
Yeah,
Bannon. Yeah,
Steve Bannon too. Yeah. Well, let's talk about what are the things that make us feel, hopeful here because we've alluded to a little bit of it. I think history shows that the pendulum swings.
Mhm.
All of this is pretty unprecedented though, so it's hard to use the exact same predictor and be like, this is the way think people are going to react. I do think that there's a much louder movement shifting on the left than I have seen on the right. I think there's a lot of breaking apart on the right and people dissenting from each other, but I haven't seen a respectable sort of movement away from MAGA that has gotten the headlines and attention that you see from like really like progressives on the left, like what we've
yeah,
seen
for
with
sure.
Mamdani and what he was able to accomplish. James Tallarico, is probably the worst case scenario for the Republicans in Texas because he does have a religious background and he does like check a lot of the like boxes of like the moderate to moderate right leaning people who are dissatisfied with the way things are right now. um you have a lot of good primary opposition by progressives that are coming up and have just happened in Texas. So for as someone who aligns with those people, that makes me feel good. I don't want a uniparty system. I don't even like a two-party system. But if I had to pick between a uniparty system of progressives right now versus what the other side is presenting, I would rather obviously have the first thing, just because it's getting really out of control. The kind of, and the people that they're running, that Republicans are running, in most cases, not all, in most cases, though, I feel um, are really problematic and don't have good candidate quality. But Democrats have that too,
Yeah.
just not really to the extent. So I want to see as many flips of seats in November as possible to try to get this thing back to the middle of the court. Not even like, I mean, this is, we're just trying to stabilize here. I don't think we're trying to,
No,
there's too
big
much
time.
damage that's been done to go all the way to the other side here
Yeah.
anytime soon. Um, so yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You just want like just somebody to at least start to be able to offer like improved material conditions for just regular Americans. I'd love to see like a Lenacon or a Lenacon type figure once again, in charge of the FTC. We need to start breaking up these monopolies and um, someone who can also get like healthcare back on track. Hopefully, we don't lose the coverage of our at least our current plan, even though it's not great. At least it offers like a public option for people to buy health insurance.
it's there's a lot to think about. I want to take a step back and talk about other things that are happening right now that I
Yeah.
think are going to seem a little random, but maybe connected. Sports betting and gambling has become a rampant sort of available thing. Touch of your, touch of a couple taps, you could make or lose your entire life savings. I'll probably lose. Have you noticed have you noticed that shift in terms of advertising everything much more aligned with gambling, right? I
Oh
feel like
God,
there's a
yeah.
lot of AI/gambling propaganda being pushed down our throats now.
Yeah, I mean, I think this ties exactly into what we were talking about before. It's a symptom of everyone's material conditions, getting worse. The idea that there is no legitimate way to make money or to, through hard work, you're not going to become wealthy. You're not going to be able to build a life for yourself. So, at that point, I think so a lot of people feel that they have to turn to gambling, these prediction markets, and not only that, I feel that this is definitely going to be the next opioid epidemic for the US is like my personal feeling on it. And it's global.
Well, that's such a good point about illegitimate money making techniques now. It's like they know that we can't make money because we're not allowed. So it's like, well, let's make, here, do this,
Might
invest
as
in
well put it on red, right?
crypto and
Like, yeah.
yeah, and gamble it. Yeah. Yeah, put it on red. Exactly. And GLP-1s, another thing that is all over the place now with like Roe, Zepbound, Ozempic,
All the
the
peptides,
weight
yeah.
loss drugs. Um, Basically like, hey, again, similar to making money, it's like, and this is when I say this, by the way, this is, I totally understand the use cases and needs for having these drugs, but it's like, hey, don't want to work out to lose those 20 pounds. Why don't you take a pill? Because there are a lot of people who are like not super overweight or obese who are taking, who are interested in, who are taking these drugs. And it's what people don't realize is that I know someone in my family who takes this, and the side effects are really strong. They make you feel
They're
really sick. You
yeah.
get dizzy. You can't really function. Your energy levels fluctuate, and these aren't like rare side effects. These are guaranteed side effects. How do you think your appetite gets suppressed? It's because you're so sick all the time. You don't feel like eating. That's how you lose the weight. And so
Yeah.
it's basically advertising something that's going to make you feel sick and telling you that you should take it because it'll improve your health.
Oh,
There are some health benefits to it, but it's alarming, and it's another thing that is being pushed everywhere now is our GLP-1s.
anytime that there's like a new quick weight loss formula, it's always just taken the world by storm. Like it's always just a guaranteed like money printer, because this was the same thing with like fen back in the 90s. These were the amphetamine based pills in the 60s and 70s. I'm trying, and all of these turns out, like when you do research later on down the line, you find out they're extremely dangerous. And
Yeah.
I think that we might find that like even here with like Ozempic and just peptides in general. If you're listening from inside the culture country or like outside of the country, like I think, yeah, as an American, like this is all the stuff that's just rattling around in your head. Or at least
Yeah.
it is for Nick and I. Um
Yeah.
yeah, of course, like yeah, it's because this is all the stuff that, yeah, like we're unfortunately thinking about like on a near daily basis.
Yeah.
And we are
We
getting
live it, right?
bombarded with it. Yeah, exactly.
We live it. We see it all the time. I had an amazing trip to England recently and hung out
Yeah.
with Tim King at Sit Ticker Open. And shout out to Tim for being an awesome host. Had a really just a life changing experience. Just like an awesome trip, beautiful place. Despite the fact that it was like rainy the whole time, it was really wonderful.
But that's the
And
authentic English experience.
right, but there was something about being there. It's like, you know what? It's what's interesting is that when I was in London, I was only, I've been to London twice and I wasn't in London for, it's not like I've lived in London, but while I was there and I took the tube everywhere and I was walking around all over the place. And um, it's like the city like knows that the people living there exist and that they matter. And the investment into infrastructure there is really remarkable. Granted, I know it's expensive to live there,
Oh yeah.
um, very expensive, but the bus and train system, the safety measures, and and the reduction of cars allowed to drive into the city, all of those things are really fascinating to me. And they don't have special interests or corporations getting in the way of that type of progress like we would here or like we do here. We could never, ever at a countrywide level, granted, I know England's really small, I know, ever try to do something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and it was just, I don't know, it felt like people lifestyle there was people were like enjoying their lives. It was like, they'd work, they'd leave work around the same time. A lot of people, obviously, people work different jobs. So they're like, I'm ready to live my life and go out and hang out at the pub, or go see a show or walk around. And and then going to the countryside, it was just really peaceful.
Yeah.
And you just don't experience. You can definitely experience peace in parts of the states. There's definitely those beautiful areas and national parks and smaller towns, but just not the same kind of experience that you get in England. And I'll probably, I mean, honestly, Europe in general.
Oh, for sure.
It's just more socialized. I think that's really what I'm getting at, is that there's a little bit more of a socialized outlook than we could possibly have. And so I was trying not to do too many comparisons for the sake of staying sane. But I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
wow,
yeah.
this is really different. Like, this is really interesting. This is crazy. It's like, but dude, I mean, the London Underground makes the CTA look like child's play. I mean, those trains run so quickly, and
I
so they're
know.
just always just right there. Every couple of minutes, you get a train.
Same
It's
thing
it's
when I
pretty
was,
awesome.
yeah, like in Spain, like through Europe too. Like once you really have access like that level of like public transit, you're like, oh, this is special. This is really good.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it
I'm
is special.
I'm fortunate to live in Chicago where we at least have the option to have public transit, but yeah, no, theirs is like light years
Right.
ahead of where we're at. Yeah.
I I went through their Supreme Court because I don't know if you knew this, Andrew. You're a man of fun facts. Their Supreme Court is about 17 years old. They haven't had one until 17 years ago. It was Parliament was their was what they used to dictate law
Yeah.
until 17 years ago. And I walked through their Supreme Court building because you could walk in for free and
Cool.
walk through the courtrooms. It was pretty cool. Very modest Supreme Court, by the way. Beautiful building, but smaller. The courtrooms modern, but modest.
Yeah.
Um, but there were some cases that were outlined, some major cases that you could read about. And one of them was about COVID and business insurance companies, basically companies that were had to stay closed because of COVID and who were denied claims by their insurance companies to cover their operating costs and their losses. And the Supreme Court sided with the people and ordered the insurance companies to pay out their policies to these business owners. And I thought, never in the United States of America would that ever happen.
Yeah.
It was really incredible to see a case like that. Clearly, the judges didn't feel any pressure from the insurance companies like you would have the kind of web of corruption here. Granted, I'm not saying England doesn't have its own issues in terms of
Yeah,
corruption
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. Talking to locals, they have their own issues. Every government does,
Oh, big
but
time.
it's not in the way of the betterment of people the way it is here. And so I just thought that was a really fascinating case that in the way that they ruled it. It's like, wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it was a great trip, and it was fun pretending to be an Englishman for a week, and then coming back. I am part English, which is cool. So I kind of going home, like back to my roots a little bit. My grandfather's British.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
know, Andrew, you've done a lot of traveling in general, but the last year, I feel like you've been out of the country. I don't know, 3, 4 times, maybe. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, in about like a 1 year span. Yeah, we did Spain, Portugal, Greece, and Turkey. So
When you were in Turkey, what was that experience like? Because again, I feel like it's easy as both of us who are politically mindful.
yeah.
What was that like being in Turkey?
So for me, like I was in Antalya, Turkey, for a wedding. It was absolutely lovely. I was there, back in June. It was really cool, because Antalya isn't really a vacation destination for Americans, um, but it's seen as like the Cancun of Europe. And so it's a very tourist friendly city. Like everyone I talked to was super friendly. And then also before I would go there, I was trying to learn like a couple Turkish like phrases, or learn how to speak it a little bit. I got like these like language tapes. So making sure I was saying things like merhaba, which is like hello, and then teşekkürler, which is thank you. This was like Turkey was like the one country where if you just tried to speak a little bit of Turkish like with them, they would get like so excited. And they're like, "Whoa, you know some Turkish?" They're like, "That's so cool."
That's cool. Culturally, like there is much more, religious and traditional, right, in Turkey
Yeah, I
when
mean,
it
like,
comes
yeah,
to
when you go there, you'll
socio-political stuff.
yeah, there's like you'll definitely hear the call to prayer from the mosques. Like the hotel that we were staying in was pretty close to one. We went on a historical tour like there as well, and Antalya as an ancient city, and you see a lot of like how the shifting tribes and politics that from there have like shaped them over the course of the year, or over the course of history. Like I didn't really get into any sort of like politics with the locals there, and because Erdogan is the president of Turkey, a bit of an autocrat. He's got that's not a place that as an outsider you want to be like caught talking about anything political with.
Yeah.
However, just when I was there talking to like the people, they had a big city festival. So they had like concert venues that were set up all over the city. They had a lot of like fair like craft fairs. They had a bunch of painters that were like they had an art festival, and I just get to get back like talking with the people and then seeing how their city runs and operates. It's just one of those things that lets you know, no matter where you are, like what side of the world, like I felt so at home. The people there were just like I feel like, anywhere else, just as friendly, had a lot of like similar interests and likes, yeah, that like the more that I've traveled, the more I realize that all humans we're so similar. No matter where the world we are. We just really are similar.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something. It's a good reminder to wherever you are that you like, you have the same blood. You have, we're all humans
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I think us having, our differences or reasonable differences is kind of what makes things function, like in
Mhm.
terms of like society, but also just like that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Not everyone should all, be the same or believe all the same things, but it's a respect for one another that I think is really what matters. That's the kicker, right? Is what matters most.
100%.
Yeah, and I know that like a country like Turkey, respect is a foundational pillar of lifestyle, and obviously religion, their religion.
Yeah.
Islam is an important aspect as well there, and I don't really know much about Islam, so I have no comments on it. I just know that
Yeah.
they take it much more seriously than I think we take our sorts of faith or our faith in the states, whether you have it or not. Well, we've been able to talk about a lot. I think this is really easy for us to do this. I was like, man, this is going to be easy to just yap and do these off-topic podcasts. I appreciate everybody, listening up to this point. Obviously, a lot of big topics, political conversations. The major thing that I want to reinforce is that not caring about politics or not wanting to talk about it is a privileged position, and I just want everyone should remind themselves of that when someone's like, "I don't want to hear it." It must be nice that it doesn't affect you the way it affects other people. Um,
Well,
so
yeah.
I it's just something that I my patience around that. I understand when it's like I want to try to escape and not think about this right now. Like I just want to. It's not that. That's not what I'm talking about. It's when someone's like, it's not a problem if you don't look up. That attitude, like that very Jin Urso type, that line from Rogue One.
Sure.
It's a problematic stance, and so I don't. I'm not saying that everyone should be like an activist, but I think you should be willing to recognize that people's lives are affected in a lot of pretty severe ways or intense ways, and are that the impact is huge, and that's not a partisan or political thing. That's just life.
Oh,
And
fair enough.
so I
Yeah.
would just be more willing to listen and talk about those things.
Yeah.
Versus being like, oh, like, I don't watch, like, when people comment, very rarely, but comment on my YouTube channel. It's like, man, like, stop talking, like, stick to sports, stop talking about politics. It's like, no, no, it's
Yeah.
if you want to put your head in the sand, there are a lot of ways to do it, but not with me, unfortunately. If you're expecting somebody who's not ever going to talk about what's going on in the world, it's not going to be Andrew or myself that you're going to find that we're
We're
always willing
yappers.
to
Yeah.
acknowledge, yeah, and talk about things that are happening. And for us, it comes naturally. I think for others, it's more uncomfortable. It depends on your own experiences and trauma. And but
Sure.
it's better to be willing to talk about it than to be someone who wants to run away from it and put their head in the sand.
Yeah. I mean, I think it makes sense. I mean, one, think of the media we like, Star Wars, which is extremely political.
Yeah, space fascism.
Yeah, George Lucas was not subtle about really any of the messages that are inside of Star Wars.
Yeah,
So
exactly. No,
we
it's
take that to heart.
yeah.
Now, I will say, in line with Star Wars too, I know, I would prefer everyone be an activist. I think that'd be easier.
Yeah, it's you're the reason why things have gotten to the way they have is because enough people haven't done something about it. The voices haven't gotten loud enough, and I'm hoping that we keep getting, you know, marching in the direction of people coming together and unifying and pushing back against things that, it's just basically a system that has nobody's best interest in mind unless you're a billionaire pedophile. I mean, that's really what it feels like these days.
For sure. Yeah.
Or unless you just have a ton of money, because wealth is power, and that's the way that that's the way it operates everywhere. Wealth, it gives you power. It's a universal type of currency.
Yeah.
Power. You have the money, then you can do whatever you want anywhere. Speaking of Star Wars, before we wrap up here, are you excited about the Mandalorian Grogu movie? Because I keep forgetting it exists.
I'm excited about it.
Okay, what are you excited about? Anything in particular?
So I will say, from what I have seen, it looks like they're getting back to their like season one spaghetti western roots. It feels like it's not going to take itself too seriously. It feels like it's going to be just a fun summer blockbuster adventure.
Okay.
I hope that it doesn't one for one copy season one of Mandalorian, because it looks like, even from some of the costumes, that it might. I forgot the guy who Werner Herzog played, but like they have like that guy is kind of like the main like villain. But it does seem fun. I like that the poster kind of harkens back to like the 1980s Indiana Jones adventure style poster. So it's something that I think might be worth seeing in theaters.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna go see it. I just I don't know. I think Andor kind of I was so out on Star Wars, and then Andor really brought me back in. talk about relevant to everything we've talked about.
Oh, big
That
time.
show couldn't have been made at a better time in terms of just how accurate and how tied to just the way things are these days. It's just really on the nose. But I am I think I'm ready for the Mandalorian and Grogu saga to end and for them to find something new. And I hope this movie does a good kind of finale wrap up to what the show was and the
Yeah,
highs, and it hits those highs, and that, like you said, I don't think it should be taken too seriously. But you and I differ on opinions on the Mandalorian.
we sure
But
do.
I do hope that they have something else planned, something new planned, that they can move to, because it seems like they're not really willing to stretch this out past the movie anymore. I don't think there's another
100%.
season of the show coming or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Mandalorian story has been told. For listeners out there, when we say we disagree on the Mandalorian, I think we both like it. I really loved season 3, and that's not an opinion that a lot of other people share, but I will also say that with the caveat that I feel that season 3 was written for, me. Like, and someone like me specifically.
Yeah, and I mean, and when it comes to Jewish identity, Dave Filoni is Jewish, and there's a little
Yeah.
bit of that tie. Obviously, the Mandalorian.
As
Uh,
as someone who is religious, like, I was like, "Oh, this is a show f this is a season for religious people."
yeah, it's I the only real issue that I have with the Mandalorian, I thought season one had some really good moments, and then there was a couple of episodes I felt like I was like, oh, this is kind of like a filler. Like, there's a few of those. That
Yeah.
was my thoughts. Season two, I thought was awesome. I mean, it was just like top notch for me. I thought it was like, this is great. It's
Yeah.
doing the things that it did well in the first season. It's kind of building a narrative. It's not doing anything too formulaic. The first season, I feel like it was guilty of kind of repeating some a templated kind of like formula for, like, he goes to this place and needs to do this thing to get this thing to do the thing.
Mhm.
And I thought they were really weaving a narrative the second season with him as with the dark saber, Bo-Katan, and everything like that. And then I thought the third season, it like flashed at the very beginning that it was continuing that story, and then I felt like it kind of put that on hold for a while, and it's like, we'll get to Mandalore and the good stuff at the very end. And so I didn't love that as much. But that was just, yeah, season three, as you said, obviously I think it didn't hit where people wanted it to in terms of like total audience favor. But
Yeah.
it's certainly always entertaining. I love Grogu just hitting, what is it? No, 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 right on
Yeah.
the IG and IG 11 and just running around. I was just like, what am I watching? This is hilarious. So bizarre.
Just a baby and a killer assassin droid.
Christopher Lloyd, Lizzo, Jack Black cameos. We had that in an episode, which was interesting.
Yeah, that was like, the I think what the most panned episode. I get why. I mean, that was a diversion.
That was, yeah, it wasn't the
That
past,
was
but
something. I thought it
it
was
was it
cool.
was it
Like,
was
I
interesting.
didn't hate it. I'm happy that they did something different. I think that was
Yeah.
kind of when they were trying to get back to like more of the spaghetti western kind of stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, but like in the middle
it felt
in the
so out of
middle of the
place.
season, yeah, and it's like, well, no, get back to what the story, guys. Like, what are we doing?
If they had cut that from season 3, they had, like, left season 3 in, and then they were like, "Oh, this is a bonus episode." Like, this is like a
Right,
like they released it like a special bonus. I think people have been like, "Yeah, that's cool."
right.
It's like a little side mystery
Isn't
adventure.
isn't it the end of that episode when Bo-Katan becomes like the leader of the Mandalorian people? It's just
Yeah,
at the
I think
very
yeah,
end of that
when they're
episode.
flying back, yeah, that I think
Yeah,
so.
like the very end,
Like,
like something really
they should
significant
have
happens.
taken the ending of that episode, made it the beginning of the next episode. And then if they had just released it as, like, a side, like, "Hey, this is an extra," I think people would have been on board with it. Like,
Yeah.
it just felt so jarring, yeah, where it was.
Din jarring, as they say. Yeah, Mandalorian
To
joke
be
there.
fair, like, I mean, that was, like, the same thing with the Book of Boba Fett, they just threw an episode of The Mandalorian in there. Honestly, it would've made more sense if they'd thrown that episode in the middle of Book of Boba Fett,
Yeah,
and then you'd be like, "What
yeah.
the oh, yeah, this is okay."
Oh, Book of Boba Fett.
Sure.
Yeah, I think there's a new season of Ahsoka that's supposed to come out at some point.
Ugh,
Um, I didn't love that show.
I might miss that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a snooze fest for me.
Oh,
And
boy.
honestly,
I've
I,
stricken it from my own headcanon.
yeah,
I'm
well,
like,
people
"That's"
are like, oh, like I love Ahsoka, like anything Ahsoka, like yes, 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 yes. And I've never been like the biggest fanboy of Ahsoka, but I think she's a good like post prequel addition to. And in terms of prequel edition, I just mean like when the prequels are made, kind of a new character that they added in Star Wars. She is not interesting enough in live action. I mean, Rosario Dawson's Ahsoka is like sleepy material.
I
I'm sorry to
and I
say it.
don't think it's her. I think it's the writing. I think I mean, obviously a very talented actress. I think that, oh boy, it's the writing once again, I think is making the actors look bad.
Yeah, and there's I mean there's a YouTube channel. Gosh, what's his name? Charlie Hopkins. He does deep fakes like where he's like Qui-Gon and
Yeah.
Obi-Wan like are reacting to things like on the couch,
Yeah.
and he was reacting to Ahsoka, and he's like the part where Balin like stabs the guy at the back. He's like, "We are no Jedi." And he stabs the guy in the back. It stabs him
Yeah.
in the chest, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I could tell with your red lightsaber." Just like really bad writing. But there's so many villains in that show. I mean, it's
What
like, where do you begin with the villains?
so I mean, and the
Like
problem
7
is
of them.
most villains don't do anything.
No, just hanging around. And I'm sorry, but whoever, what's the name of the actor who plays Thrawn? Do you remember at the
I
top of
was
your head?
just
He looks like Elon Musk. It's Space
a little
Elon.
bit.
It's
Yeah.
like if you look up, just do it for those of you listening at home.
Lars
It's worth
Mikkelsen.
it. Yeah. So if you Google Elon versus Thrawn Ahsoka show, and the side by side images, you cannot unsee it.
That's
Unfortunately,
hilarious.
it's literally looks like Elon. Oh my gosh. That show, all right, another season coming. We'll
One of
see.
my biggest problems was like Star Wars. I think has been doing this thing where they introduce like a really cool looking villain, but they have no lines of dialogue. They're on screen for a total of 10 minutes, and they don't do anything. um,
Yeah.
and Shin Hati was that for me.
Oh yeah.
At
Yeah.
first, you're like, "Oh, this person seems really cool." Like episode one, like like what a great villain, and then has zero dialogue.
Yeah.
She utters maybe three words the entire show, shows up, shoots Ahsoka's ship, and then disappears. So Shin Hati, who's played by Avina Sankno, I'm probably butchering her last name, Sakno, from the Ukraine. I heard her in an interview after like the first season of Ahsoka, where they were like, "Oh, we're like excited to see more from Shin." Like what do you think? Shin Hati's like motivation was, and she was like, "Oh, I think that like Shin Hati's like still trying to find her motivation." I'm paraphrasing, but I thought that's bad news. If the actress is like, "I don't understand my character's motivation,"
Yeah, that's pretty in line with, I think, the
like,
non-Gilroy Disney Star Wars stuff.
woof,
So
yeah,
yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I remember Solo. People apparently that was supposed to be like a trilogy. I'm like, you guys are gonna make a trilogy on Solo? I
yeah,
don't know. I think again, it's another example of inventing what your audience wants and then making what your fake audience wants and then being shocked when your true audience is like, oh, I didn't really want that. Not to say that I think Ahsoka was, I think 50-50, 60-40 people liked it versus disliked it. Book of
yeah,
Boba Fett's like 30-70 in terms of liked to
yeah.
disliked. Obi-Wan's probably 40-60 in terms of liked and disliked. Mandalorian's probably like 65-35, maybe 70-30 liked to dislike. But Ahsoka, I'd watch. If I had to watch another show over again, like today, I had to choose like right now, I would choose Obi-Wan over Ahsoka.
Oh, in a heart, I would choose anything over Ahsoka. Yeah.
Even Book of Boba Fett.
I would watch Book of
That one.
Boba Fett to do a Mystery Science Theater 3000. Like it's fun. It's
Dude,
more fun. It's
do
more
that.
fun to make fun of Book of Boba Fett
Yeah,
because
I
it's a lot more camp.
should do
Like
that. We should totally do that. Or Rise of Skywalker too. That's another good one. Just drink and do a Mystery Science Theater kind of
oh man,
experience. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh man, yeah, we'll black that out. But hey, we are really putting we're putting the off topic and the off topic episodes here with
sure
talking
are.
about
Yeah,
all over. This has been great. I think we could probably wrap up. Obviously, I'll give you a chance for any sort of closing, random thoughts before we you do the outro.
No, this has been a lot of fun. It's been a energetic palate cleanser from our usual material, and it's always just a pleasure hanging out talking with you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I this episode probably will come out right before Worlds. And for those of you who are planning to go, I'm excited to see you guys in person. I've got all the gear ready. Going to make sure that I have that all set aside before I move, so I can just grab and go and head over to Milwaukee. I've got the 312 polo shirts coming in. I'm excited for
Very
those.
excited for
Andrew, I got
those.
one for
Yeah,
you as well. And it's gonna be a long but exciting and fun weekend, and we hit triple digits in registration. So um, it should be a good time. Just a couple 2.5 weeks away.
I know. Can't believe it.
Exciting. Thank you all so much for listening to this first foray into the off topic episodes. We hope you enjoyed, and thanks for sticking around. And I'll leave it to Andrew to do our little outro here.
Yeah, I was going to say, to shore up what Nick said too, thank you for listening to this episode and continuing to support us at 312. We appreciate any time that you click on our episodes and give us any of your attention. We're looking forward to seeing you at Worlds and hanging out. Let us know what your thoughts are too. And then also make sure that you can follow us on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. And we'll have those links for you in the description. Once again, my name is Andrew Kouba.
My name is Nick, off topic Sperry.
And we will see you at World.
See you later.